Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, Christine. Welcome.
Hello.
So you're all here to meet Christine Wushke. And am I actually pronouncing your surname right?
That is correct. Also, Wushke.
Wushke, yeah. No, it's nice to know. Wushke and Wushke actually sounds nicer. So for those that are here for Christine and don't know me, I'm Esther, and I'm the founder of EkhartYoga. I teach yoga and all sorts of yogas and meditation a lot. And yeah, but we're really here for Christine. So I'd like to introduce Christine to you a bit, and then she can talk about herself a little bit more. So Christine Wushke has over 20 years of experience helping people find wellness and spiritual transformation. And that's also, I think, how I found you, Christine. I think a couple of years ago, through somewhere on Facebook, you wrote something. I wish I can remember what it was. I don't, but I do know that I really liked what you wrote. And I think it also had a lot to do with freedom and finding freedom within, because that's also my subject. So whatever you wrote touched me, and I looked you up on your website, and we had a session once together that I really appreciated. So yeah, and it took a few years to get you on this platform, but here you are. And Christine is a certified yoga therapist and also registered as a continuing education provider with Yoga Alliance. And yeah, your work with yoga, what you bring with you is your background as a certified Hakomi practitioner, and you are specialized in myofascial massage, but also in fascia itself, what I understand. And yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about yourself, like what you think is interesting to know for the people here, for the people that might be interested in doing your course or know a little bit about you?
Yeah. Well, so as far as the fascia part of things goes, my training was originally for manual therapy, because I'm a manual therapist, and was taking the work with fascia on the kind of hands-on techniques. But I've also been a yoga therapist for close to 30 years now, actually. I just had a birthday. Yeah, it's 30 years. So my passion has always been in movement, is in empowering my clients to move really well, so that they don't need manual therapy as much, that they can do self-care or self-release or empower themselves to feel great in their bodies. And when I discovered fascia and learned how amazingly effective these techniques were, what came to me about that was it would be really great to weave this into into the work that I do with movement, so that I can teach my clients and my students how to integrate the fascia piece into their movement practice, so that they can have a really great self-care. And also the same with the Hakomi. So as I was taking Hakomi, it was initially to go with my manual, like my one-on-one clients, which it does work really well for that. But there's also so many aspects of the Hakomi that go really well with a yoga practice, with a mindful movement practice. And the principles of Hakomi and the principles of myofascial release are kind of a perfect match. So that's how I came up with my system of myofascial yoga. As I pulled together what I was seeing as kind of universal principles in a bunch of different systems, and it's like, there's probably a reason for that. And at the same time, also, I'm a big fan of being outside and being in nature and seeing that nature organizes itself this way too. So kind of came to me that this is like, part of it is using a sort of reciprocity or a relational approach in the way that I like to be in nature as the way that I like to be in my body, and then also noticing how effective that is. So in the feedback I was getting from clients and students, like, as soon as I start being with myself in this really relational way, my pain levels come down, or my stress levels come down, or I just feel better in my skin. So with that feedback, it kind of took on its own life from there.
That's beautiful. So you drew from all of your systems and what you studied and know about in nature, and then you put it to your clients, and then the clients gave feedback, and that shaped it even more, what I understand. That's great. So you're talking about Hakomi, and I think a lot of people in Europe, at least, are not familiar with the term. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, sure. So it was created by a man named Ron Kurtz, and it's essentially a somatic form of psychotherapy, but it's not a analytical type of therapy. It's somatic in the sense that the processing is done through the body. So it's a lot of the nervous system aspect that we're going to be talking about in our course will kind of come from that system. So the Hakomi method uses polyvagal theory, the window of tolerance model. So it's kind of like a somatic therapy in the sense that we're working on, and one of the core principles of Hakomi, I'll also just say, is relationality, is being in harmony with, or in unity with, or union with your body, your mind, your emotions. So all the levels of ourselves, the Hakomi is about getting into healthy relationship with. And that's the part of it I think I love the most. So it works so well with yoga, of course, as the yoga principle being that union, or to yoke, or to unite. And so it fits really well with that.
Yeah.
So
I love how you use the word relational, the relationship with, I mean, when you say relationship with, it's easy to think just about between people.
Yes. Exactly.
And it's, and that brings up something, but then I was like, oh yeah, so you're also in a relationship with your body, and you're also in a relationship with your feelings, and what is that relationship? And
yeah, exactly. When I used to teach a lot of drop-in classes and regular classes to beginners, that was often what I would start with. Is I like to think of the yoga environment like couples counseling, but it's that this one is mediation between your body and your mind, or maybe your mind and your emotions. So whatever maybe polarizations come up inside you as you go inward, we're creating a space to find a way to organize those inner aspects and have them come into balance, or come into harmony with each other. So that's how I always thought of yoga, but the nervous system piece is really helpful. And especially for those that are yoga teachers, and maybe wanting to understand also how does the yoga philosophy fit into some of the more modern scientific framework of polyvagal theory and nervous system regulation. And so I like to also go in both, talk about the ancient system of yoga, like the lineage of yoga, but also take in some of the scientific findings, especially around the nervous system and polyvagal theory and all of that.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, you've mentioned polyvagal theory a couple of times. So I think that's also something that really comes back in the course you're going to do for the academy, right?
I think I'll be talking about it a fair bit. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, both as a theory, but also as more than anything, it will be experiential. So it will be about doing practices and doing little experiments so that you can really explore how that works inside your own body, because it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. We'll all regulate ourselves in slightly different ways. So I like to kind of turn it back to the person.
Yeah. So if I wind it back a little bit, just for those that are here that have no idea what polyvagal theory is. Yeah. Just in a nutshell, how would you explain it? So people can get excited about it, about learning about it and being able to track their own system.
So this is a concept that was formulated by Dr. Stephen Porges. quite a ways back. I'm not sure exactly the year of when he started talking about it, but it is a theory. So it's not that there is a lot of research and science, but it is still, technically a theory. So I also know that, but it's become popular in the last few years, and Deb Dana and a few others have written books on how to take this concept into therapy or into movement practices. And it's the basic premise. So it's about the vagus nerve and nervous system regulation, and the polyvagal part is in how it has different aspects. And we talk about those aspects I can put it in really practical terms.
Yeah.
In sort of really human terms, which is that we have different modes or different gears. And you probably recognize this in your system in, ways. I think of it as when you're in traffic, you might be, if maybe you have a time deadline and somebody cuts you off a little bit, you might notice you go into a different gear. So there might be a sense of agitation or irritation, and that will be part of what we're talking about with these different modes or gears, which would feel different. It's a different experience than, say, when you're cuddled up on your couch with your cat or your dog or your loved one, and there's that feeling of social engagement or that feeling of connection, that feeling that comes over us when we're in that mode or that gear. So those are the two main ones we talk about. There's also a third one, which is a little bit lower down, which on what we call the polyvagal ladder, which would be where we might feel really, really low. And that one we'll talk about a little bit more in the course, and just how to work with these gears. Like how do I have control a little bit over those states and regulate those states on my own so that they don't just kind of take over. And that's a lot of what we do with the mindful movement. And one of the reasons why I resonate with it so much and find the mindfulness so powerful is that it has such a strong impact on the way that I can regulate those modes, those gears. I can shift a little bit more easily if my movement's mindful.
Exactly. So you learn kind of, well, that's more a question. So are we learning in your course to move from the states that aren't so helpful to the social engagement state?
Yeah. Well, where we're going to start in the course is that the first step is getting to know your nervous system. So
Yes.
getting to know your own gears, how they look, how they play out for you. So we'll start with kind of getting to know, how do I know when I'm in that state of relationality and connection, and what are some emergent properties of that state? So how can I recognize it? And how do I know when I'm leaving that, as I'm shifting gears, how do I know when that's taking place? And where do I want to be? And how do I get myself into sort of it's almost like taking your nervous system by the hand and teaching it a little bit. And I think of it often like a three-legged race, where it's, sometimes it'll go off this way and the mind will go off that way, but we sort of find a way for them to work together. So the conscious mind, or that kind of that volition to change it, kind of come into harmony with the nervous system, and then we get them into a relationship.
Yeah, great. That sounds that's really clear. That sounds beautiful. And so and I think that's really powerful what you said as well about first get to know what the states look like for you, because I think there's theory and then but it all, of course, we're all different, and so it will look a little different for all of us, and it will look a little different where we hang out most, or if we feel a little agitated or reactive, where we go in which part. So I think just that part about you spending time teaching people, like, where are you? And
exactly. Yes, that they get to know it yourself part, I think, is really the key to it. We can read about these things and understand them intellectually, but there is something so valuable about knowing exactly what that looks like in your own system. And then also that piece of information takes you to the next step, which is then how do I start to work with it?
Yes.
So how do I manage that in my own life when I feel like I don't have any control over those gears? What are some strategies that I can use, or what are some tools that I can put in my toolkit so that I can have a little bit more choice in those states?
Yeah.
Or in some cases, it's a little bit more about acceptance of the. For me personally, I've really learned to appreciate my nervous system. Where, I remember the day that I first really clicked. I was walking down the street and a spider had come down from a tree and landed on me, and I had this but it was the sort of old reaction would have been to have maybe been a little hard on myself about that, or or maybe dismiss that, oh, it's just a spider. But in that moment, it was really the first moment where I turned to the nervous system to appreciate its response. It was like, oh, thank you for jumping into protection mode, and we're okay.
Yeah.
And to also watch with some awareness and some mindfulness as it came back into regulation, kind of all by itself, with just a little bit of breath, with just a little bit of some of the tools that we'll talk about in the course, with breath and mindfulness and movement and just good self-care, really.
And I hear compassion,
Yeah.
self-compassion in this, where you, when that spider landed and you reacted, or the nervous system jumped into place, and instead of you being a bit hard on yourself, rather you were like, I can see how you're trying to protect me, thank you. And that in itself is a regulation technique, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the appreciation for its mechanism too, that oh wow, these nervous systems are amazing. They've got these like built-in survival functions.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Yeah.
And isn't that just what everybody wants, is to be, back to what you said in the beginning, to be in relationship with yourself and with your mind and with your body and with your nervous system in an appreciative way, rather than all of us in these times, or not all of us, but many of us, and a lot of us, and a lot of the times are so, how do you say it? We're so hard on ourselves and critical, and how.
And I mean, if it comes up in the course, just because it's such a common one, and of course there'll be live sections, so I love to go relational in the way that I teach too. So I'll have a outline and key points I want to hit and follow, but also I like to follow the students and the questions and the interest. And so if it comes up, it would be neat to talk a little bit about that inner critic that, I'm sure most of us can relate to having an inner critic.
Yes.
And how to work with that in a relational way, and how to, again, like you said, bring in some self-compassion and add those tools in as well.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great. I'm definitely gonna be part of your course, Christine, but I knew that from the beginning when I invited you. Okay, so you've been talking a lot about the polyvagal theory and a little bit of Hakomi, and what role does fascia play in this course as well?
Yeah, so great. There's so much to say about it. I'm just looking at the time, how much time we have left. So I
need it as well, so just talk.
Okay. I think the biggest thing with the probably understanding fascia and how it relates to the nervous system is to maybe go a little bit into the tensegrity concept. So the idea of the fascia as a whole body system and the fascia as a network. I'll talk about tensegrity a bit in the course, and also fascia as a kind of a whole body system. And that's to me where they really come together, because a lot of times when we talk about fascia, or even if we look at kind of the old model of fascia, because there's a lot of really new and exciting stuff emerging out of that field. And the older stuff would be to talk about it mainly as these pieces and parts within the body, like your ligaments, your tendons, those bits of connective tissue, as though they're separate pieces. And this newer bit is more to understand it as a whole body system. And it's a system that's extraordinarily sensitive, and the nervous system is embedded within it. So when we talk about the full body, so fascia as a system, the fascial system, we're looking at the gel aspect of it, the liquid aspect of it, and also the tensional network of it, and how that sort of pre-tensioned network of the fascia has a lot to do with how we move and how we feel in our body. So a lot of times we think about tension in almost like a negative context, that I have maybe a tension in my shoulder and I need to get rid of it. From a tensegrity lens, it's more about balancing the tensions out. So from a tensegrity lens, tension is a good thing. Okay. But balanced tension is where we want to be. We want it to be even. And so again, like the nervous system, we start to really appreciate tension when we get going into the tensegrity.
Oh, beautiful.
And
can you say a little bit about how do we know when tension is balanced and when it's not?
Oh, we definitely feel it. We'll feel it. You'll feel it right away. One of my beautiful mentors, Joanne Avison, who has a book on this as well, which I'll recommend highly. But she explains it like a tension. Think of it as tension like a musical instrument. And for me, that concept that really clicks for me, to think of it as when when my son's playing his guitar, it's when the strings are tensioned in that just right way, there's a sound that you just know. You feel it, you hear it, and there's like almost an intuitive knowing. That's tensioned properly. And if it's not tensioned, so one of those strings is maybe too loose and maybe another one is too tight, immediately you hear that difference. So as a metaphor, it's just a great way to kind of to translate that to our body. We kind of know when I have maybe a side of me that's not tensioned enough, and I have another side of me or another part of me that's tensioned a little too much. When I'm moving, and even just when I'm being in my system, I'll feel that. Or maybe it'll show up as a pain sensation, or maybe it'll just show up as a discomfort or a knowing something's a bit out of balance. And so that's one of the elements we'll work with, is in getting to know our tensional system, and how to feel when it's in balance and feel when it's out of balance, and then what to do about it to continue working with bringing it into balance.
Sounds great. Yeah, because I can imagine there are people who walk around with unbalanced tension for so long that they might, with so much pain, even physical pain, and maybe even chronic, that they could have forgotten what balanced tension might feel like. So so that's then having the time to learn to feel again, almost. And maybe, because I think your course, you're of course talking about all these subjects, but there's also mindful movement in it to work with everything that the body comes with, right? So
the mindful movement will be the sort of the bulk of the practice. Like there'll be teaching sessions, and then there'll be practice sessions. So the bulk of the practice will be the mindful moving, and I also will bring in some micro movement. And one of the big things with working with fascia is just finding an appropriate degree of movement for you. So that's where the self-tracking is really going to come in, because we'll all have our range of movement that's appropriate for us, and it's going to be different for everybody. Some bodies will want to move in just micro degrees, and the very, very, very subtle movements will be what feels right to kind of tune their instrument. And for others, they'll want bigger movements, and they'll want to feel a little bit more. And so I think of this as an inside out way of teaching. So the way that we start is to go into the self-tracking, and then we find that range that kind of gets that instrument singing the right note. And it'll look a little bit different for everybody. So in a class, you might have someone doing a larger range and someone doing a smaller range, but everyone's finding that balance for themselves.
So you're getting a tool almost that you know what it's supposed to feel like within when you move, and then you start to explore, when you stay within that window of where it's balanced tension, and when you move out of that, and then you learn. So that's the tracking, and then you learn to come back within it. So you learn really, almost what I hear is you learn to practice for what's right.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I like using the tensegrity concept, is because it is a play of two words, which is tension and integrity. And so that's really kind of where we're trying to find that balance. The word integrity really comes into play. So you feel when that tension is in integrity, there's a set again of emergent properties that you'll get to know that, oh, this is how I know when I'm in that right range in that pose, because I feel this set of emergent properties. So we'll get to know that through the course.
And I know that when you start to become aware of that physically and within, that it has an immediate effect as well on other areas of your life. So you also, so you start to feel emotionally when you move out of the balanced tension place.
Absolutely.
And so I can, and I think we have to be able to work on other levels, we have to start with our body to embody it, because the information it's all right there, right? So it's like even the emotional information and everything is right so in the body. So
absolutely. And like we can use a little bit of the yoga philosophy even for a moment, just to go into the idea of the koshers, which is the different levels or layers of what I experience as being human. And those are relationships too. So we have the emotional level, the mental level, the physical level, the spiritual level. And there's a few more that we'll talk about that come through the yoga philosophy, but these are in relationship with each other. These are parts of ourselves that, they have inner relationships that, my intellectual level or side of me and my emotional side of me are like, how in harmony are they? Are they at odds with each other? And it's just like having two children, right? It changes day to day.
Yeah.
But it's like that inside. So those are it's all relationship in different, playing out in different ways.
Amazing. Well, I think I can't wait. I totally forgot to look at the chat.
Oh yes, I was actually going to say, should we take a few minutes to go into questions?
Yeah. So maybe we should see if people have questions. And before we go into questions, just because I don't know if it was mentioned that it was just a half an hour, this interview, and I don't want you to miss out that Christine is going to offer a free mini series with already a lot of tips and tracking and tracking and regulating your nervous system. And you only have to do is give your email address for that, and the link is in the description below this video. So don't forget to sign up for that, so that you can have already, and then she will go more into the teaching mode and give already some really interesting snippets. And then, of course, the actual course on the Academy is going to be launched in about 3 months. But if you give your email address here, you'll be notified for that too. So let's have a look here if there is some. So if there's any questions, everyone, maybe just put them in the chat, and then I'll ask Christine.
And maybe while you're scrolling through too, I'll just say that the free mini series will be we'll go into some practical, kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of how to know your nervous system is the first part. And then some strategies in once you have a knowing of, here's where the different gears, there'll be some really simple tips for how to know how to change those gears in yourself. And the course is for those wanting to dive deeper into that. So if you do the mini series and you find that helpful and you want to go further, then the course will be there for going deeper into it.
Perfect. That's amazing. So people can really kind of go to the mini series to feel out if it's
Exactly.
if it fits what they want. So there's someone here that says, I'm interested in how to help someone else who is stuck in a reactive state. For example, if someone regularly ramps themselves up with a negative thought pattern each morning, how to help them. Is that something that will be talked about as well?
That'll be a little bit more in the course, because
Yeah.
the course will be geared toward those who are maybe yoga teachers, yoga therapists, or any type of movement at all. If you're Feldenkrais or Pilates or any type of Qigong, Tai Chi, this course would be appropriate for that. So any movement, any type of movement facilitation. So if you're a teacher of that, the course is kind of help for how do I help? How do I, once I know how to track myself, how do I know how to track someone else's nervous system? And then what do I do to support them or help them? And then a big thing I would say about that question too with the negative thoughts is that there's a concept in polyvagal theory, which is that story follows state. Yeah. And to me, that's a really big one. And I think that helps a lot too, that sometimes we'll go to the story first, or we'll go to the mental activity, the mental narrative, and try to tweak things on that level. And if once we start to understand the body and the nervous system states, it's a little, because it's easier to shift it in the body. But then the mental narrative tends to shift all on its own.
Exactly.
We tend to, there's a sort of emergent properties of that state, which tends to be a different type of mental narrative. So we'll work a little bit with that. So story follows state is.
Yeah, I kind of
recommend
sometimes
to that person.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I once did something with Deb Dana, and I walked around for a few days, being in a situation and thinking, okay, what would my story be if I'd be in this state of the nervous system, and what would my story be if I walk around in this state of the, so shifted states, and then the narrative indeed completely changes. So it's really interesting.
Beautiful.
And yeah, you learn how to shift and what you can do to shift it. So it's, let me see. So yeah, so that is okay. So I see here's the link for the mini series. Okay, well, I think whatever you've been saying, Christine, has been super clear, because I don't see any questions. Okay, someone here, P Seeker, says, looking forward to learning more about the integration of polyvagal theory and fascia. And happy belated birthday, Esther. Thank you, P Seeker. When was your birthday, Christine? Because you just had
Mine was
yours.
on the 11th. Was yours recent as well?
Yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Oh, you too still. But anyway, we're both Cancer, I think.
I'm Gemini.
Oh, you're Gemini. Yeah.
My son.
Anyway, so here, so she's looking forward to learning more about the integration of the polyvagal theory and fascia. So that's going to be,
that'll be a really big part of the course. I'll touch on that in the mini series too, especially if there's some interest in how do these things come to, like, what's the connection between the fascial system and the nervous system. So it is fascinating how they connect. So, but we'll dive a bit deeper into that in the course.
Yeah. Really nice. Okay. And someone says, hi, I'm a physician. And here, thanks, Christine and Esther, polyvagal fascia, all fascinating. Yes, very much so. I think that's Rick there, but anyway. Christine, would you like to end with maybe a mini practice of some sort of something that you could offer us?
Yeah, well, I wonder if we could do a little mindful movement.
Yeah, of course. I'd be delighted.
To see what happens. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll do a micro movement, because I can't see anybody. So just to keep it really, really, really simple, maybe we'll just do head turns, because those are easy, or you could do a shoulder raise. But to incorporate mindfulness into it, we want to start by taking a moment to check in with your physical body. And you can do this eyes opened or closed. It really is just whatever helps to facilitate you to bring your awareness in to your body. And we're going to do a little scan and just see how comfortable, like if you did it on a scale, let's say of 1 to 10, how comfortable do you feel in your skin right now? Does it feel like, oh yeah, I really like being inside, I really like having awareness inside my body, or it does not feel good? And then pick a number between 1 and 10 of sort of where, how comfortable does it feel to be with yourself, and make a note of it. And then what we'll do is we'll take maybe 4 breaths together. And what we'll do with the breath is we'll count out 4-second inhale, 4-second exhale, just to start with. So see if you can get your breath to coordinate into, it takes 4 seconds to breathe in. And 4 seconds to breathe out. And you can breathe in and out through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth, whichever way works for you the best. But the main idea is noticing how it is to start to regulate the breath by coordinating it with these counting, with the seconds. And then you can check in again with that scale. So on that scale of 1 to 10, how is it now that you've done some mindful breathing? How is it now to be in your body? And then we're going to do head turns for the mindful movements. So you're going to turn your head slowly to the right until you feel just the beginnings of some sensation. So for us yoga people, this is what we'll know as a stretch sensation. If you're maybe new to movement practices, just any kind of, oh, there, yeah, I feel something happening in my neck. And once you feel that hint of sensation, pause there and then go to the other side. And then part of what the micro movement practice is about is, can you find where that line is, where here's where I feel the beginnings of sensation, and can I actually keep my range of movement just before that? There's reasons to why we do it this way, which I'll touch into later. But is there a way to turn head side to side and do the range so that I'm stopping just before I feel any sensation at all? And then you can also add in that breath awareness as well. So we could maybe do the turn part on our inhale and the returning to center on our exhale. So every time we're turning, we're going to time that with an inhale. And then every time we're coming to center, we'll time that with an exhale. Maybe just do 2 more. And then when you've finished that last one, maybe for 30 seconds or so, scan one more time, again, looking on that scale of 1 to 10. Check out, how does it feel now if you look? How comfortable is it for you to be in your own skin in this moment? And there's really no right or wrong. I mean, we could go down in comfort or up in comfort, and that's what we play with and work with. That's information which is useful. But for the most part, when we do something regulating like that, we regulated, we synchronized our movement with our breath. and that the execution of that tends to be very regulating for the nervous system. So when we do an exercise like that, and it's also when we don't go fully into sensation, there's sort of a non-threatening cue that comes from the nervous system as well in that. So we often will start with creating almost like a non-threatening field to play around in. Those elements together tend to be tend to increase the comfort of being. So I would love to hear anybody did it with us. What did you notice? You can type it in the chat. Was it easier to be in your system after the regulating exercise?
It is, there's a little delay when people leave something for us to see it.
Yeah.
But I can, in the meantime, shall I give you my experience?
I would love it.
Yeah. So I immediately felt like I'm used to going to the edge, and I don't maybe push the edge, but I still go there.
Yeah.
And so when you told me not to do that, or to maybe stay, not even not to do it, but to stay before it, I almost felt an emotional reaction in a very good way, a relief, like going like, oh, really? That's so nice. I don't have to go there. And so, and after I worked with that, and I had to really kind of actually be gentle with myself, not to still think, yeah, but I have to kind of almost go there, right? And so I really had to work to not go there. Things felt like I felt more flow in the body, literally. So there was more aliveness in the places that felt a little, difficult, tired, and so.
And can I say a little bit of something about your experience that kind of relates to the course?
Absolutely.
Because what I hear in that is that moment of relief is, so that would be what we're looking for as an emergent property. And what I would guess is maybe your system felt safe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so safety is one of the emergent properties of that gear, that mode of the ventral vagal, or that what we'll be calling the green light gear of the nervous system. So that's great. So thank you for sharing.
Sure. So there's something happened on the chat. Let's have a look.
Right.
Someone, are you seeing the chat? No, right?
I don't see it. No.
No, don't worry. I'll say it to you. So there's someone, Peace Seeker, saying, yes, much easier after the exercise. Whoa. So she felt really different. And Ken says 7 to 9. And someone, Joanna, says, I wanted to breathe the opposite way, but loved it. Very present. And yes, agree. I usually push further. And Mary says, very simple, lovely way to feel some slowing down. So yes, people felt.
Wow, great. Yeah. And so I even hear some emergent properties coming out of the comments. So calm is one of the words that we'll use as an emergent property. And slowing down is a great one. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And and also just to touch on that, I'll say this often in the course, that if the breath wants to go the other way, to let it go the other way. Yeah, it's a very intuitive type of
nice
word.
Yeah, lovely. I hope you got that, Joanne, that you can breathe the other way if that body kind of tells you that. And at least, like what you're saying, you try both out, or go there and find out what works.
To notice how it's different.
Yeah,
try it the other way and see what shifts or changes.
Yeah, lovely. Okay. Anything else, Christine, that you feel you want to share with our audience and with your audience that are listening, to for people to know about you or your work, or even about a course that's coming up, or the mini series?
The only thing that comes up right now is how excited I am about it. I've been really wanting to talk about the intersection of fascia and the nervous system for quite a while. So when your email came in, it was quite a synchronicity for me to, oh, good, now I can put something together and really and really teach about it and talk about it and explore. And then I always learn from students. So every time I get a new question, it's something that allows the work to grow and expand. So it's just such a great opportunity for me. And I can't wait.
No, me neither. And I just want to say, just listening to you and being in relationship with my body while being in relationship with you while we talk. And I felt the green light coming on and going into the ventral vagal state and even talking about it. And I think hopefully everybody felt that, and it's an important thing to feel. And it's what a teacher, or what you can get from learning with each other and with someone else. It's so important, isn't it?
It is, it's in Hakomi we might say something like entering the relational field together. And there is something very co-regulating and co-facilitating about the setting up a group in that particular way. That it's a very healing environment.
It's very healing. Yeah. Okay. So so thank you for joining us, Christine. And again, she'll be releasing her bigger course on our very own academy in October. Yeah. And in the meantime, you can sign up for the free mini-series of short classes from Christine. And these have already tips on tracking and regulating your nervous system. And the link for that is in the video below. And if you sign up for that, you will also be informed, of course, when the course in October is ready and goes live. And the course in October is in a format that it's not only through classes, there's a live element in it, in Zoom, right? Of all of it, or
absolutely. So we'll go back and forth between having a live session and then there'll be a practice in between. So when we come back together with the live, that'll be a good opportunity to either share your experience of the practice or to ask questions, or to share what worked and what didn't work, so that we can really fine tune it.
Yeah, so that's super exciting that we have an academy course coming wherein you really get to to relate with the teacher and ask your questions live and share with each other. So okay, so now Christine, where can people find you right now if they already want some more information about you? What your website is? I wrote it down somewhere, but maybe you can just say it.
So my website is freelyhuman.com. And I'm on all the social medias. I think am I on all the social medias? I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I just joined TikTok. But Facebook is probably the one I'm most active on. So you can just put my name, first and last name, into the search bar on Facebook, and I'm sure you'll find me. And I have a few groups in Facebook. One's called the Myofascial Institute, Myofascial Yoga Institute Facebook group, where you can also ask me questions on that group. And then I also have a group called Online Meditations Worldwide. And so that one, sometimes we'll do live stream mindfulness meditations where you can ask me questions there as well. So any of those places you can find me.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, now, so nice to talk to you. And and thank you everyone for joining in. Oh, hang on, I'm just... oh yeah, so Joanne says thank you. She'll sign up for your mini series. She tuned in a bit late, was super excited about it, and there's a lot of thank yous here. So wonderful. So I'm going to end the stream. We can have a little chat. Just
okay.
And thank you everyone so much for joining, and everyone who will listen to this later, because of course this is available on YouTube, and if you couldn't make it, we might send it to you. So anybody who tunes in later, thank you so much for joining, and we'll hope to see you on the mini series. All right.
Yes.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Okay.